So, Alfred Hitchcock, he is or was a legend in terms of movie making. For me, the greatest director of all time. My own personal opinion, of course, someone has different opinions, but for me, Alfred Hitchcock is for movies like The Beatles was for music. He was really an all-timer, and his movies continue to grow on me, and I want to watch them over and over again. Maybe not all of them, but his best works I want. And what I'm going to do, I'm making a list over my 30 favorite Hitchcock movies, and I'm discussing them also in some spoilers. So if you haven't seen a lot of his movies, I will recommend you do it before you are watching this video. I've seen about 30 movies of him, the whole movie. I mean, and then I've seen bits of some other movies, not the whole movie, but a bit of them. Yeah, and I have to say from the beginning, I haven't seen his silent movies. Unfortunately, it's my biggest Hitchcock sin, if I can say that. But I just haven't. So I'm primarily discussing his talkies, if that makes sense. But there are 4 movies of Hitchcock I've never watched fully, but I've seen bits of, and these are Topaz, Ton Curtain, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and the 30th version of The Man Who Knew Too Much. All these 4 movies I have tried to watch, but I didn't feel for it. I just didn't. I wasn't particularly invested in the movies. But I'm not going to discuss them because that wouldn't be fair. Because I haven't seen the whole movies, so I wouldn't discuss them. But the list I have, my top 30, is from number 30, The Man Who Knew Too Much from 1956, if I remember correctly, and that movie is it's difficult because there are some good scenes in it. It's not a terrible movie, I would say, but it's not. I don't really care for the plot, and I've always felt it was a mistake to make a remake of the original because I don't think really they do some. The plot isn't very convincing, I think, and I know it has some fans, but I just for me it's not really a good movie. It's not a terrible movie, but it's in my bottom. It has my biggest compliment I can give it is it's very well edited, especially near the climax, and it's very well made. But I just don't care of it that much. It's not a movie I will see again, I have to say. Number 29, and this is maybe a shock for most of you, but it's Rebecca from 1940. I have it. I think I have it. No, I haven't. I thought I have it, but that movie is. It's an alright story in general. I think the book is probably better than the movie, I would imagine. I don't think it's really that special. It's a bit. It's a very talky movie and a bit dated. The story is okay, like I said, but it's a bit, in my opinion, a little too long and a bit boring. The positive about the movie is that the actors are very good in it. I liked also Hitchcock's visual style. And like I said, the story is okay, but I'm just not that much invested in it. So that's why it's so low on the list. But I know it has a lot of fans, so in some ways I would wish I could give it more praise. And I will probably I think I will watch it again. Maybe it will come a little higher, but overall I wasn't a fan of it, I must say. And here I will say, you know, when you are making a personal list, you know, it's very subjective. So, you know, I'm not necessarily saying this is a bad movies. Those I would take in the bottom, because Hitchcock was really a great director. He didn't really make bad movies. I just, like I said, Rebecca, for example, it's I don't think it's a bad movie. I'm just not invested, and therefore it's so low on this list. But I understand. I actually understand it has some fans. So I'm really. It's totally fine if somebody loves the movie, and I really hope that maybe in the few years to come I would rewatch it, and maybe I will get a more appreciation of it. But right now, not the biggest fan. And the next movie, I have some of the same problems. It's a Spellbound from 1945. I have it. Actually, have it right here on DVD, and I really wish I loved it. I really wish, because it has some really cool stuff in it. It has an amazing score by Miklos Roxa. I can't pronounce his name, but you know who I'm talking about. Great score. Love that score. It has some cool visuals in it, especially that dream sequence, and that's my favorite part. That is really what I think about Spellbound, because it has some great scenes, but I just don't care for the plot at all, and I think it's, you know, I don't get why Ingrid Bergman falls in love with Gregory Peck. I don't. It feels so. I don't think it's that. I know it's written by Ben Hurt, but it's not. I don't think it's a great script. I think it has a lot of problems in the story construction, but it has good scenes and a cool score, good actors, and some interesting psychoanalytic parts, but I just don't care for the story. And I know you shouldn't necessarily all discussing plot things. You know, movies are fantasies, not realism. But in some ways, it tries to be realistic, and I just don't care. Number 27, The Lady Vanishes, and it has some fans too, I know, and. The biggest praise is Michael Redgrave, I would say. He's very great in this movie. The first half is also pretty good. It's funny. It is a funny movie, I would say. It has some good humor in it, but I just don't care for the plot. And the villains is not. I think it's very stereotypical. You know, they're very like. It's so easy to see who the villains are, and I wish it would be a little more. I don't know. It feels very black and white in terms of good versus evil in villains and heroes, and it's an okay movie, especially the first half, but overall it's a little too long, and I don't care that much for the plot. Number 26, The 39 Steps. And this is maybe, I'm a little too harsh on this, because I haven't seen this in a long time. I've only seen it once. I remember thinking this is an okay movie, but I wasn't totally blown away. I know some of you will probably think it's the best Hitchcock movie, and I can see why, but I feel it's a bit dated, you know. It has some good spectacle scenes, good acting, and like I said, I remember it's to be fine, but I don't really remember it as being. I wasn't totally invested in it, so that's why it's so low. But maybe I will definitely rewatch it, and hopefully I can get more appreciation. So please take it with a grain of salt. It's so low, but I don't think it ever would be in my top 15. I don't think so. But it is what it is. And number 25 is Family Plot. His Alfred Hitchcock's last movie, and here I would actually say it's much. I would give it some praise before I will get to the bad stuff, because I actually think it's a pretty entertaining movie. A bit like, you know, the 39 Steps. Both are pretty entertaining, but the plot is nothing new really, and it's also very dated. You know, there's some really bad blue screen, or what is called background protection. It's not convincing at all, but it's a fun movie overall, and I think it's worth watching, even though you probably heard a lot of criticism of this movie. But I think it's fun. I do think it's fun, but it's very dated and not the best story, but it's fun to watch, I would say. Number 24 is Young and Innocent. Is it from? I can't remember. It's from the 30s, and like the Family Plot and 39 Steps, it's a very fun movie, but nothing totally special. I think it's really straightforward, but it has some good scenes, good characters, and really fun, but nothing special. But I would say it's decent. I would say, yeah. Then we are to my number 23, I think. I hope I'm saying the right number. But that is Saboteur. Saboteur, I think it's, yeah. From, I think I have it, yeah. It's from 1942, and it's a pretty fun movie. But I think the plot it's just a really suspense picture, typical, a bit like the other. I don't think it's not that surprising. It's very straightforward, and but it's pretty good, you know. I can't really say it's a bad movie or anything. It's decent, but I'm not, again, the plot is very similar to some of his earlier works and later works, so I don't think it's one of his best movies. Then we are on number 22, I think, yeah. Suspicion from 1941, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Suspicion, and Cary Grant and Joan Fontaine is great, as always. Very great. It's actually a pretty good movie, but I hate the ending, I must say. That Hollywood cliched ending where they drive off almost in the sunset. It's just not my kind of ending, you know. You just, you know, I don't really. It's just primarily the ending that for me does it so low on my list. You know, I would also say Cary Grant's character is not my. It's probably my least favorite on all Hitchcock movies, because he plays very well, but I don't. Yeah, he plays well, but the character is. He's best when he's creepy. I don't think he's that charming in the movie. He's just creepy, so I don't get really why she falls in love with him. But I don't know. It's a pretty good movie, but the ending, I don't like the ending. And then we on my number 21, and that is actually also on this. It's I Confess with Montgomery Clift from 1953, I think. It's a very interesting movie. It's very serious. Not a fun movie, really. It's very serious, where he's Montgomery Clift is a priest, and he has this. He has that. A killer's confession. He has to remain silent because that's his job. But the police are investigating this murder, you know. I think it's a little too long, and I don't really care that much for the ending either. I think the climax could have been better, but overall it's a decent but not very fun movie, I must say, but pretty good. Number 20 is, where is it? Dial M for Murder. And it has a lot of fans, I know, and I understand why, because it really has some great acting, especially from Ray Milland in this movie. But my main problem is that the first half is very great, I think. The first half is almost like in top 10 Hitchcock, but the second half is not as good as the first half, I must say. And it's my biggest complaint about it is the second half. You know, they talk and it's very predictable what happened in the second half, and I always think it could they talk a bit too much. It's a very talking movie, but it's enjoyable talking, I must say. But the first half is very great, and the second half is okay, but very predictable. So that's why it's so low on my list. But great acting. All of the actors are amazing, and but it's not his best, in my opinion. And then we are on my number 19, and that is a very fun romantic movie, To Catch a Thief, with Cary Grant and Grace Kelly from 1955. It's a lot of fun, a lot of good humor. It's a very fun movie. I haven't really any complaints, really, except for the plot. The plot is so predictable all the movie through the movie, and yeah, that is my complaint, really. But it's a blast to watch. It's a very fun movie, but though it's not the best plot in the world. Then we are my number 18, and that is The Wrong Man with Henry Fonda, and it's a very dark, sad story. There's not really much positive. You know, yes, there's a lot of positive about the movie because it's a very good movie, but it's not a fun movie to watch, and it's not. I don't think it's a great movie because it has some maybe a bit structure problems here and there, but it's I think you have to watch it because it is a solid movie, and a lot of great scenes and acting, and the Bernard Herrmann score is amazing. The black and white color is gorgeous. It's very well filmed, and yeah, I think the script could be slightly better, and it will probably be a great movie, but it is very good, I must say. Yeah. Then I think we are number 17, and that is Stage Fright from 1950. That's I saw it last week for the first time, and the reason I've waited so long is because I've read the book with Truffaut and Hitchcock, and I knew the twist that was coming. So therefore I hadn't watched it before now, because it was like I knew the twist, why watch it, but I felt I have to watch it because it's Hitchcock, you know, and it is pretty good, I must say, even though you know the twist is coming, because it has some great scenes. I love the flashback scenes even. You know, Hitchcock didn't like it. Truffaut wasn't biggest fan of it either, but I like the flashback. I think it's interesting construction. Hitchcock was just ahead of his time, I must say, but the main problem with the movie is that I think it has too much stuff going on, because the real central, the interesting thing is the main character really trying to protect this man, and I think you can have developed that much more. Instead, there's some blackmail and much going on that really, I don't think it really needed that much. It could be a bit shorter, and you can have a better plot. But overall, it's a good movie. It's not that I have something. I like the actors, especially Marlene Dietrich is stealing every scene she's in, but the script could have been better. That's in many of Hitchcock's lesser movies. It's mostly the script, because he always make them work in some ways, because these are good movies, got great scenes and good acting, but they just needed something in the script that could have done that they were much better. But it is a decent movie, I must say. And number 16 is Stranger on a Train, and that's one of my most controversial one, because I like the movie, but I don't think it's great. I don't like the ending. I think the ending is too much spectacle and less on plot. And I like the first half because it has an intriguing plot, good dialogue, good characters, but the ending, I'm a bit always disappointed by the ending, so that's why it's so low on my list. But I like the movie, so don't get me wrong, it's a good movie. Robert Walker is amazing as this crazy villain, but it's a very intriguing movie, but I don't like the ending. Number 15, and that is a spy movie, and it's foreign Correspondent from 1940, and it's solid. It's a very solid movie. It's close to be great. I love the ending in this, actually, but maybe I think the biggest weakness is I think it's a little too long. I've actually only seen this once, and I have to rewatch it soon. But I really like it. I remember liking, and I remember lots of great scenes near the end, especially. But the plot is very intriguing. But I remember thinking it was a little too long. So that's my opinion. Number 14 is the Paradine Case with Gregory Peck, and this is an underrated one. But because it's very, very good. Gregory Peck is amazing in it, and I know some movie buffs like Hitchcock and Truffaut didn't care for Gregory Peck, but I think he's great in this, much better than in Spellbound. I think this is really a good part for him, but the biggest complaint I have about the movie is that it doesn't really go too much into why he falls in love with the woman he's defending. It doesn't really make that much sense, because they don't have that many scenes in the beginning. They have some good chemistry, but it's not really that much they go into it. But the story, I do have to say that the story is really good, and I don't think it's boring at all. So I think it's an underrated run that could have been great if it was more convincing that he fall in love with the woman he's defending. But very good movie. And number 13 is a fun movie. It's actually. It's a fun movie. The Trouble with Harry is a comedy essentially, and but a very dark. It still it deals with murder, or they think it's a murder, anyhow. But it's a fun movie. I can watch it without really thinking of too much else, you know. But it's a movie that, you know, my criticism is not really against movies. Just it's not a movie you remember that much from. You know, when you watch it, it's like, oh, that was pretty fun, and then you go and then you just suddenly don't think about that much from the movie. It's not a movie you remember. But every time I watch it, it's pretty good, and I like it. It's close to be great. If there was a more memorable scenes, I would probably think it's a great comedy. But it's very good. Number 12, and this is also maybe a controversial one for some people. It's North by Northwest with Cary Grant, and I mean, it's a blast to watch. Cary Grant is amazing in this. Also is what is her name? Eva Marie Saint. They have such great chemistry. They are lovely. I love the plot. It's very confusing, but it's so fun. But the criticism I have of the movie is it's too long. It is too long, and I know some of you probably disagree on this, but I think it's too long. I don't really care that much of the last 10-12 minutes. It's because you know what's going to happen, and but it's a little too long. They could easily have trimmed it to be shorter, but that's my criticism. But again, I really like North by Northwest. So because it's so low, it's only because he's making so many great movies. But I really like North by Northwest. Number 11 is really underrated one for some. It's a Marnie. You know, it's very interesting, and it's a movie that you can sort of be a little frustrated about when you're watching it, because there's some controversial stuff going on, and that's the biggest weakness about the movie, is the Sean Connery part, because he is sort of a villain, but he's not really but he becomes the hero in the end. So his character isn't fleshed out that much, and you could have done it. His character is really the weakest part, but he plays the part well, and T.B. Hedren is amazing. I like the score, the visuals. I also like the story. It's in some ways it's a great movie, but it has some stuff that I'm not so keen on. But it is a great movie. It is. And number 10 on my list is another great movie, Frenchie, from 1972, and it's very basic Hitchcock with a wrong man and brutal murders. One of his most brutal stuff is in this movie, and great script, really great script. But I don't have any complaints really, except that just some movies that I like more. But it is a great movie. So that's Frenchie, you know. And number 9 is also maybe a controversial one, but it is Psycho. And great movie. Maybe I could complain about this more than I can with Frenchie, because I don't think the thing is, how should I say it? I've always felt that it has an interesting structure, but it's also the movie's flaws, because the script it really doesn't have that. I don't know. The last act is, how should I say it? John Gavin and Vera Miles' characters is just thrown into the plot all of a sudden, and and they are not very interesting characters. And I know it's not a character study, this movie, it's really an experience, and a lot of great twists and scenes and music. It's a great movie, and I understand people think it's the greatest movie of all time or the best Hitchcock movie. But like I said, and it is, how should I say it? It is a great movie. I just think it has some small problems in the script. that does. It's not my favorite, but it's great. It is great. Whew. Number 8. This is an underrated one. It's Sabotage from 1936, I think. It's a very emotional movie, dark. It's a very dark movie, a lot of suspense, thrilling elements. Hitchcock and Truffaut wasn't that keen on it, but even the best can make mistakes, you know. But they think that Hitchcock made a mistake with the bomb sequence with the kid in the movie, and in some ways I understand it, but I think the scene is great, and I think it's a tragedy, you know. I don't think they understand it themselves. It is a tragedy, but yeah, I think it's great. It's yeah, almost. I have nothing really critique to say about the movie. It is great. Yeah, number 7 is actually, I know some people have some problems with it, and in some way I understand it, but I personally think it's a classic. It's The Birds from 1963, and yeah, sure, the special effects is not as convincing anymore. That I can give some, if I had to pick some criticism, but I love the movie. It's really special for me. This is actually in some ways a bit more scary than I feel Psycho is, because there is this. The thing I like is how the characters react to all this supernatural stuff, because not supernatural, but all those thing about the bird, what is going on, you know. They are like, they don't understand, and I like the people's reaction to all the stuff that is happening. I like the character stuff. I think it balances perfectly well between suspense and spectacle and character moments, and it is a powerful movie, and one of the best B movies, if I have to say, because it is, in some ways it is a B movie, but it is a great one. Yeah. Number 6 is an experiment, Hitchcock says. It's where is it? Rope, with James Stewart and Farley Granger and John Dahl. It's essentially a stage play filmed. You know, I know it's based on a play that they reworked to make it more cinematic, I think. But I personally love it. It's you know, it's a great movie. James Stewart is great, all the actors is great. It has some interesting themes in the movie, and even though it's filmed in one shot and not have so much editing, it's very cinematic anyhow. And yeah, I love the movie. Number 4 is Lifeboat from 1944. And this movie I also love. I love the dilemmas this movie takes up. You know, there's this German who's on this boat with all these passengers. That is, and then they have to decide what they are going to do with this German. And it's very interesting. It's thought-provoking, but a classic. I love it. And number 4 is Shadow of a Doubt, and this movie I also love. Joseph Cotten is. He's just amazing, and what is her name? Teresa Wright is also great. It's a classic, one of my all-time favorite movies. Yeah, I really. The thing is, when I'm coming to the end now, all the good stuff, I can't really complain that much because I just love them so much. But I love them. Shadow of a Doubt is amazing, and so as number 3. This is probably my... When I saw this the first time, I was completely blown away, and it's Vertigo. It's the movie I have the best first-time experience with of all Hitchcock movies, because the thing is, some of the other ones I have read about a bit and, you know, seen some scenes, but this I just haven't... In some ways I haven't heard about it at all, except the title. So I didn't know what to expect, and... It's a masterpiece in terms of visual storytelling, and it's so, but also so frustrating, because it is a really perverse story, and James Stewart is so good in this movie, and I love it. I really love it. Yeah, you can make fun of the plot, doesn't make any sense, but the emotions make sense. So therefore, it's really. It's fucking great, I must say. Yeah. So is the number 2 also. It's I guess it's probably one of your favorites. It's Notorious from 1946, and this movie only gets better each time I'm watching it. It's the first. I'm Danish, so the first time I watched it was without subtitles at all. It was without English subtitles or Danish subtitles, so I didn't understand the plot at all. I only understand the emotions, and it actually worked. But I didn't really know, because I have troubling understanding the plot. It only get better when I saw it with subtitles. And now it's my number 2. Maybe in some years it might be number 1, who knows. But I love Notorious. Great acting, great plot. I wouldn't... of course you can always find some nitpicks, but it's so good. It's really good. I love it. Cary Grant, poof. But also Bergman too, man. Claudia Rains, top-notch Hitchcock. It is. And number 1 is... I'm speechless right now. You can hear. I'm also a bit tired of talking. It's Rear Window. No surprise by those who have seen the whole thing. You know, it's Rear Window is essentially the Hitchcock movies I would take on the island. Right now, I could in some years probably take Notorious or Vertigo or some of the other ones, but right now Rear Window is just... I love the movie, I like the story, the dialogue scenes, I like the location. The location, they have built this stage, the buildings, you know, they've built it in their sound stage. Their studio, you know, then who have distributed the movie, I can't remember, but whew, Paramount Pictures, you know, they built this whole set, and I just wish they have, you know, they have kept it. It could be in a museum, because it's so fucking awesome to look at. Sorry, I'm cursing, but I love Rear Window. It's right now it's my favorite movie of all time. So keep in mind, this is Hitchcock at his peak, and I love every single minute of it. It's not a movie I would watch every day, but it's so good. It's almost like candy, or like, it's so good. Whew. Yeah. This was my list, and I'm really tired right now, and you can probably hear I'm not speaking so well right now, because I also have to focus. I'm speaking English, and as someone who doesn't speak English every day, it can be very, very hard. And now it's time to me to stop this video, but I hope you enjoyed this movie, even though you probably disagree with a lot of my choices. But the thing is about Hitchcock is I get jealous when some love a movie that I necessarily don't love. Lot of those that I have in the bottom of my list, because Hitchcock has made so many good movies, and even though even my number 30, The Man Who Knew Too Much, it's not a terrible movie by any means. That is not just my type of movie, where Rear Window is my type of movie. I can't really explain it. It's about emotions and all this stuff, and how you feel about it, and we all have different opinions, but Hitchcock it means so much to me. So, like the Beatles, he can never be replaced, I think. He's so good. and I'm going to stop this video now. I will probably... yeah, I don't know what to say. See ya.